Hey guys, welcome to another All Ball special. With me today is a very, very special guest, former Danish athlete, a professional throwing coach, and the holder for the Guinness World Record for the longest throw. With me, I have today Thomas Gronnemark. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Happy to be here. So thanks for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure to have you, Thomas. I hope everyone back home is safe in these extreme times around the world.
Yeah, I can say I'm coming from Denmark, and in Denmark we are actually opening up society a lot now because we have really low infection numbers here with the COVID-19. So we are in a lucky situation. But I know it's a challenge in different places around the world, and also a big challenge for you at the moment. So I'm just hoping the best for everyone on the planet, so we can get through this crisis here.
Lovely, Thomas. It's good to know that you're safe and the family is safe. Thomas, we will get into a lot of conversation regarding the throw ins because it is a unique thing that we need to talk about that not many know about. But what I want to know first is as a kid, how was football introduced to you? What was that first love that took you towards football?
Yeah, I've been growing up in a workers' family where we didn't have so many, money at home. My dad didn't have a work, but I found football, and I found a lot of joy there. I started as a 5-year-old kid, and like many other people around the world, I started playing with my schoolmates when I was in school between like the classes. So I started also in a club, and I really enjoyed that. And the first many years it was only about joy, only about having fun together with your friends or teammates. So I've always been having like a joy with football, and especially when I was like this, I don't know, 8-10 years old or so, I was also looking up to my big cousins Ben and Johnny. They were like 8-10 years older than me, and they could really like do these long throw-ins. And yeah, you probably also know some family members you look up to, or someone else, and if they do something cool, then it's really fantastic. So they could do long throw-ins. So I was not only fascinated by football, but also football throw-ins already from a really early age.
It's amazing because it's a very unique aspect of the game that we may sometimes feel is not so important, but like your stats suggest, and we've read a lot of the stuff you've written, it turns out that it's very important. So you've heard of teams having specialized free kick coaches, goalkeeping coaches, but very rarely do we hear about a throw-in coach. So when this love for throw-ins came in, it's a study of the game, and I'm sure you have a lot to say. But how did it all start with the throw-ins?
It all started that again from the passion I had as a small kid seeing my big cousins. It evolved into that I, as a teenager, grew into like to having a really long throw in myself. So I was a long throw in specialist. But in my late teens, I found out that even though I was playing in the highest U19 league in Denmark, playing against some of the best players in Denmark also, for example, Thomas Gronnemark, who later played for Celtic and Real Madrid, I knew I wasn't good enough to be a professional football player. I was really fast on the football pitch, and I had a really long throw in. So in the mid 90s, I changed sport to athletics and came on the Danish national team there. Already the first year I was training, and I had 6 years on the Danish national team. After that, in 2002, I changed sport again to bobsleighing, the Danish national bobsleigh team. For all of you who don't know it, it's a winter sport where you're driving between 130 and 150 kilometers per hour in top speed on an icy track. So it's a winter sport. And it was actually in the middle of that period in 2004 on the bobsleigh team where I thought, if I can make a good throw in myself, can't I teach other players to do it? So I went down to my local library here in my hometown, Skive in Denmark, to find that book about throw-ins. But there were no books at all. And I also searched the internet for like information around throw-ins, but there were no like real serious information. So I knew if I should be a throwing coach for professional players, I have to find out the whole thing myself. I had to start from scratch. So in 2004, early 2004, I used approximately 6 months to create a throwing course and in the start it was only the long throw in, and so it was things like, how do you make the best run in, how do you make the grip on the ball, what distance should your feet have, and so I video analyzed myself to test what works and what doesn't work. So in October 2004 I had a long throwing course, but to be honest I didn't know if it would work because I've only tested on myself. So I could have been starting with a youth amateur team, but I had the courage in October 2004 to contact a local Superliga club from Denmark called Viborg. And luckily enough, the head coach said yes. And the players improved their throw-ins a lot. They scored a lot of goals on throw-ins. And in that season, Viborg, the club there, had its best placement ever in the Danish Superliga. So all in all, it was a success already from the start. And the year after, it was FC Midtjylland, an even bigger club in Denmark. So since October 2004, I've been coaching a lot of different professional football clubs in the throw-ins. And as you may come into later, I had to wait a lot of years to get my international breakthrough. So that came in 2018, where Jürgen Klopp called me.
But before that, I really want to say that, it's amazing to hear that you've come such a long way. Just to start off, I read one of your interviews where you said that when you mentioned that you wanted to be a throw-in coach, people laughed, saying a throw-in coach really is that, your idea of a throw-in coach? Is it funny? Are you serious? What was going in through your mind at that time? Because you've reached the landmark right now where you cannot question that anymore.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot about, of course, you have to trust yourself. You have to have some self-confidence, because if you don't have that, you can't take all this negative criticism. But what I think is perhaps the most important thing is, not only in football as a throwing coach, but in life in general, is to have knowledge around what you're talking about. And I knew already at that time, not in the start it was only the long throw-ins, but later I put on the fast and clever throw-ins, the throw-ins all around the pitch. And I knew I had all the data, I had all the statistics, I knew what difference it could make. So when some or a lot of people said, throwing coach, that's ridiculous, are you crazy? I respected their opinion, but I knew that I could make a difference. Let me just compare it. If you're doing something as an adult that are pretty well funded, and you know that it's good and right, and then there is a 3-year-old kid who's coming to you and say, no, that's wrong, you should do it in another way. Of course, sometimes kids can be innovative, but still there's a reason why you have these thoughts and that knowledge around it. So it was not that I saw my the people giving me criticism as kids, but they didn't just have enough knowledge. So for me, it was just like building on that knowledge, on and on and on, have more knowledge, have more drills, have better drills, and I knew that at some point I'll get my, really big breakthrough in international football. So, but of course, it's not only about self-confidence and knowledge and data. You also have to have a lot of good relations that can support you. And all the time, I've had people close to me who believed in me. So we can't do anything alone. It's no matter if you're an individual like me, a throwing coach. You have to have people around you who helps you, who can make you develop, who can support you also mentally in tough periods, because it's not been easy to go from a person that most people laughs of to win the Premier League and the Champions League with Liverpool FC. That you don't go straight upwards there. It's been a lot of ups and downs, but it's been a fantastic process. It's been like an adventure for me.
That adventure, you spoke about getting the international break. You spoke about coming to one of the biggest clubs in the world and winning two of the biggest trophies in the world, Liverpool FC. Thomas, take us through that journey, because I think I'm most excited to hear about that.
Yeah, it was actually in early July 2018. I had been coaching a lot of Danish Superliga clubs, and also had a lot of success with the long throw-ins there. But my big ambitions, I'm still coaching the long throw-ins in many clubs, but that's because I want to improve the players' throwing areas. In a few clubs, they use the long throw-in as a set-piece weapon. But my biggest ambition was to also use my fast and clever throw-ins, and perhaps we'll go into that later. But all in all, it's just about creating space all around the pitch so we can keep possession, create chances, and score goals after, no matter where the throw-in is. But I wasn't really, able to do that in the clubs because all my clubs only wanted my long throw-in knowledge. So in July 2018, I was pretty frustrated, even though I had success with the long throw-ins. So I was on a summer trip together with my family, and I have a wife and 2 kids. Daniel and Isabella are my kids called. And we had to visit a chocolate shop. And just before we went in, I looked at my phone. It had been turned with no voice on. So I could see that there was a plus 44 number who's been calling. And plus 44, that's the country code of England. And, when you have a company like me, there's often a lot of people who are selling you ridiculous stuff and try to get you into scams and so. But I thought, hey, I have to listen to that voicemail before I go into that chocolate shop. So I listened to the voicemail, and then it was just Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool FC on the phone. And if I hadn't been sitting in that car seat, I've probably been toppling over because, it's always been my biggest dream to coach in one of the biggest leagues in the world, and of course also one of the big clubs like Liverpool. So I tried to call him back, but he didn't answer. So I went into the chocolate shop with my family, and of course I told my wife. She was just as shocked as I was that Jurgen Klopp had called. And we decided afterwards that we should rather go home to ourselves and take perhaps the most important call in my entire life. So I was driving the car, my wife sitting beside me. And then suddenly the phone rang, and my wife picked the phone up and she said, "It's Jurgen." And then I just took the car, drove directly to the right into a grass field, and then I picked up the phone. And it was Jurgen Klopp, and he said, "Hi, Thomas. I read an article about you in the German newspaper Bild, and the reason why I'm calling you is because, yes, we had a fantastic season, the last season, the 17-18 season, with the 4th place in the Premier League and Champions League final, even though we lost to Real Madrid. But we were so bad at the throw-ins. We lost the ball almost every time we had a throw-in. And I tried to improve it," Jurgen said, but it didn't really work. So Jurgen Klopp invited me to a meeting at Melwood the week after, mid-July 2018. And of course I was happy. Of course I said yes. And it should only have been a meeting, but Jurgen Klopp was so convinced at the meeting that I already the day after had the chance to coach 21 of the Premier League players. And so it was a fantastic experience for me. And already the week after, I signed my first half-season contract with Liverpool. But pretty soon after, we signed another half-season contract, and then I've been signed 2 full-season contracts. So I'm almost finished with my 3rd season in Liverpool FC. And again, as I mentioned before, it's been a fantastic ride. The throw-ins have been improving a lot, but also winning these. One thing is the Champions League, that's totally fantastic. But I think what perhaps is the biggest thing is the Premier League, because, it's been 30 years of waiting time, especially for the fans, for the club. And, even in Denmark, where we have a lot of Liverpool fans, one day I met this guy, I think he was 70 years old or so, and I met him outside a supermarket when I've been picking up my groceries, and the man, he was crying. He said to me, "Hey, come on over to me. I want to say something." So he was he had waited for that championship since he was 40 years old. And remember, a lot of people, Liverpool fans, have never experienced a championship if they're 25 years old. And this 70-year-old guy, he was crying and he was pulling up his shirt, showing a big Liverpool tattoo. So this means so much for so many people. So and one thing is that I've had success with Liverpool, but it's opened up, the whole world for me. So the last 3 seasons, I've been having approximately 8 different teams around the world, different from season to season. Some teams were the same, like Liverpool, 3 seasons in a row, but yeah. So it's just opened the whole world up for me. And right now, of course, it's fantastic to win the Champions League and Premier League, and of course it can't be bigger. But actually, my biggest dream and goal is to change football so we have better throw-ins. So yeah, in the future, I'm publishing a book about throw-ins. I'm giving online courses and so, because of course at the moment it's only the professional teams who can afford my help, like at least live. But when it's out in books and online, every youth coach, every amateur coach all around the world, no matter what country you live in, you will be able to get that knowledge. So that's my biggest dream, to change the football world so we have better throw-ins.
That's amazing, because everyone on the team, everyone who's watching, we've played a lot of football, we've taken a lot of throw-ins. Of course, we've made a lot of amateur errors. So we know, the essence of throw-ins in a game. Now, Liverpool, for that matter, went from 18th to 1st in retaining position from, a throw-in. So is that something you studied, you worked on? What exactly was it that you changed in that team?
Yeah, that's what I was working on, and I can, if it's okay now, I can shortly explain my long, fast, and clever throw-in philosophy. Is that okay? So
Sure.
first of all, the long throw-in, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that of course there are some teams who are using the long throw-in as a set-piece weapon. We are not doing that in Liverpool, but some of my teams have done that. Most players, when I'm coaching their long throw-in technique, most players are improving between 5 and 10 meters, and some up to 15 meters. And that's only technique. It's not the weight room. It's only technical improvement. I'm also coaching the long throw-in clubs like, let's say, Liverpool, Ajax, and so, because even though we are not doing any long throw-ins there towards the opponent's goal, you can say that the longer throw-in you have, the greater throw-in area you'll have too, and then you can throw to more teammates. So that's like the long throw-in. And to give a little example with Liverpool, before I came to Liverpool, Andy Robertson could only throw 19 meters, and that's very short. It meant every time Liverpool had a throw-in the left side of the pitch, it was really easy for the opponents to put on pressure on Liverpool. But Andy Robertson improved to 27 meters, so 8 meters approximately. But he also improved his throwing area with more than 500 square meters. So even though Andy Robertson will never be one of the world's best at the long throwing, it really helped his throwing in the games for Liverpool. Then we have the fast throwing. What I'm learning the players there, and everything is put into drills, is that first of all, fast throw-ins, that's about throwing the ball fast, reacting fast. So it doesn't have to be the fullback who throws. It can be every player. Look at Liverpool. In matches, it's often 5, 6, 7 different players who takes the throw-ins, because it's the nearest player who should get it fast. The other players should react fast too, because then you have less pressure from the opponents. It's also just really important to say that some people think, it's just about throwing it fast all the time. No, because if you're throwing it fast into a pressure zone, it's one of the most stupid things you can do, because then you risk to lose the ball. So get it fast, react fast, take a fast decision. Do I want to throw, or perhaps just leave the ball to the fullback who's coming, and then having patience. The second thing of the fast throw-ins is when the opponents have a throw-in. Then it's all about, again, reacting fast, marking fast and tight, but it's also about communication, body language, because we have to defend the opponent's throw-ins and put pressure on them as a team. If it's only 3 out of 4 around the throw-in situation who are pressuring and marking, then you have a hole in your defense. So that's the second thing. And the third thing around the fast throw-ins, that's counter-attack throw-ins. You can't be offside in a throw-in, so not at every throw-in, but once in a while you can throw it down in the back room. But of course, it also means that your strikers or attacking midfielders should not only just run down there, but run perhaps in the blind side of the central defense, or make a cut and then run into a free space. So that's the fast throw-in, and then the clever throw-in. All in all, that's space creation all around the pitch. So I'm learning the players general space creation, but because players are not used to moving at a throw-in, most teams and players are just standing still or only running for themselves. So I'm learning them both individual but also team space creation when you have throw-in. Then I'm learning them specific tools you can use to create that space. After that, I'm having 3 different zones, and we're having some the defending zone, middle zone, attacking zone, and we have specific tools there you can use in every zone. Also, I'm using what I'm calling individual throw-in superpowers, because some players are good at special things at a throw-in. Some players are fast, some players are good with a first touch, some players are good at protecting the ball and can get the ball in what I call big boxes. Some players are good at space creation. So of course, all players should be able to do everything. But do some of the players have really super strength? Then you should use them. And then again, it's important for me to say that in my 3 zones, I'm having around 50 different throw-in tools. But it's not like in American football when you have like a playbook and then you say, we're only doing this. No. First of all, the players are learning all the basic options, but then they're also using their own imagination and fantasy and creativity. So in theory, there are millions of options every time. So when we go after 1 or 2 solutions, they're closed down, then we know that we'll open up 3, 4, perhaps 5 other solutions after that. So it's about having patience if you can't throw it fast and wait for the right option. And for my point of view, it's much more dangerous to work after this philosophy instead of having a playbook where you have 1 or 2 solutions. Because if the opponents are reading that playbook, it's really, really easy to mark. So all in all, you can say with my long, fast, and clever throw-in philosophy, I'm coaching the players' throw-in intelligence. So all in all, taking good decisions, no matter if you're the player with the ball in your hand or the players out in the field. And that's one of the most common questions to my training, is that I'm not only coaching the throwers, I'm coaching all the players on the team, to create that space. So yeah.
I was in fact going to line up the question where, is it just the throwing technique? But with what you explained, I think it's the entire scenario that you create for teams to keep the ball and then play with that, which actually showed in the 1920 season, where there was a number of 13 goals that was scored through throw-ins. The most memorable one being the winner against Wolves. So do you see throw-ins being as effective as free kicks in the coming years? Or other dead ball situations? Because now that this is developing and people are learning more about it, I'm sure this will be used by other teams in different areas of the field as well. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say that if I'm coaching the team in throw-ins, they'll always be better than the other teams. That's the way it is, at least at the moment. And I'll also say that for me, it's only a good thing that other people are getting inspired. I'll say again, I've only told like in the media, I only told like 5% of my coaching, so no one really knows what I'm doing. But first of all, I think it's a really good thing that other teams and coaches are getting inspired. The other thing is that I also see it as a good thing in football, that the general level on throw-ins are better. Because let's just go 2 or 3 seasons back before I started Liverpool. Most teams were just like hurling the ball down the line, no movement. It was like duels. It's not exciting to see. Look at basketball, look at handball, that's popular here in Europe. Look at many other hockey, look at American football. When the game is on, there's action. The challenge was that with football throw-ins, they were boring because it was just like a coincidence what happened. Right now, and when I'm publishing my book, giving my courses, but also with my teams, people can start to see that hey, they did that move, did that move, and that's the same excitement you have if you're watching basketball. It's not like, oh, they just shoot it in the basket. No, we can see that block, we can see that space creation. That means that you get a free 3-point shot. So if you're a fan of basketball, it adds on to the excitement. So I'm just happy that other teams and coaches are getting inspired, because again, it brings me on to my biggest dream and goal is to change football so we have better throw-ins, and all in all, it also give more entertainment in football, and that's what we all want. We've all seen. It's a little bit, again, let me take basketball. There are like 100 points for each team. There are happening a lot of things, but in football, we can sometimes have periods where, sometimes, okay, 10, 15, 20 minutes, they're really boring. But so I think my throw-in philosophy and my knowledge around throw-ins are adding to the excitement. So hopefully hopefully in the future there are some guys sitting in the couch and his friend is perhaps going to the kitchen to get a couple of beers, and then suddenly there is a throw-in, and this guy is saying, hey, come on in, there's a throw-in, you have to see it. I want that excitement around it. Of course, I know that it's not 100% of all people who think that, but when I've been publishing my books and everything, so the knowledge comes to the spectators who are also watching, and not only the best clubs in the world, then this knowledge comes out, and I'm 100% sure it'll make a positive challenge to everything around football.
No, I mean, I'm sure, because come on in, there's a throw-in was usually used when we had a certain Rory Delap who used to launch these ones in the Premier League. So, Thomas, that's what makes you happy. I'm pretty sure I know of one thing that it kind of disappoints you, which is, foul throw-ins, which we used to see a lot of in the Premier League, but over the recent years, they've gone down. Now, we've heard commentators say it, as a professional, it is a crime to, commit a foul throw. What is your reaction on the training field or on the field when you see a foul throw?
I don't think it's a big problem. I haven't counted it. I think there were like this Bellerin from Arsenal. He did like this season. I don't know. At one point, late in this season, I counted 5 or so, but perhaps it's up to 6 or 7. But of course, I don't have the number, but I think it's in a very, very few occasions. Perhaps it's like, I don't know, maximum 10 or 15 times it happens. So for me, it's not a problem. And of course, players should do a legal throw-in. Of course, they should do that. But it's often more the media who's like, especially with that Bellerin guy from Arsenal, like blowing the story up like it's something. Our professional players should be able to do this and this and this. So of course they have to. If you're doing it several times, you have to look at it. But we also have to look at several things. First of all, how many foul throw-ins do you have? All in all, compared to the numbers of throw-ins, and there are normally 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match, and every team is playing 38 matches at least in the Premier League, so it's a very small amount. So that's one thing. And actually, sometimes some of the foul throw-ins who are like given by the referees are actually not even sometimes foul throw-ins. Of course, if you're lifting your last foot 30 centimeters over the ground while taking the throw-in, it's a foul throw-in. But I've also seen some foul throw-in been called, like, for example, from Bellerin, where it just looks weird, but it's actually legal. But because it looks weird, for some referees, they'll just like reacting, okay, that looked weird, let me blow the whistle. And when he's done that, it's too late to redo it. So no. Of course, I want the players to take legal throw-ins, but for me, it's like a minor problem or challenge in football.
I think that's a relief to most players coming, from the master of throw-ins. Thomas, I do want to ask you this though: who is the best thrower of a football in the Liverpool team? Rather, the longest.
The longest or the best?
I think we'll go with the longest first and the best after.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I'll say that right now, of course, he's injured now. But I had Joe Gomez, who improved his throwing technique a lot, came up to 37.20 meters. And that's approximately, of course, it landed almost in the test at the last post. But I'm also often saying, what is it in a match if you want to do a long throw-in? At 37.20, that's approximately the penalty spot in the air. So it's really far. And we saw in the match between England and Croatia there a couple of years back in the Nations League, actually a really, really important match for both countries there, that Joe Gomez assisted that 1-1 goal with a long throw-in. And it's not only long, Joe Gomez throw-in, but it's also flat and hard. So he's the best long thrower in Liverpool. I'll say I've been developing really many long throwers who can throw as good as both Joe Gomez, also Rory Delap. Also, I had a guy in FC Midtjylland who assisted 35 goals on 4 seasons, so approximately 9 goals per season, Kian Hansen. So it's possible to develop these guys. Often I think Rory Delap, who was a natural talent, been doing javelin and so in his early years. but you can actually develop to be that one too. Also, if you're really poor from the start. So that was like the best in Liverpool. The longest throw-in Liverpool. If I should say the best, I'll pick Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Why do I do that? They're not they're not throwing the longest throw-ins in the world, but they're really good at throwing precise. They're really good at deciding when to throw fast, when to have patience. They're really good at seeing space being created. And it's also, of course, because the whole team is educated. Because if you're playing on a team where the outfield players are not moving at all, it's hard to, you won't get really much space being created there, and it's harder to make a good choice. So at least at the moment, I think it's Andy Robertson, Robo, and Trent Alexander-Arnold who are the best in the world. But I've also been working with them for 3 seasons, and if I'm working with other teams 2 or 3 seasons in a row, there's a big chance that they'll be just as good.
And that's amazing just to hear these things, because like I've mentioned before, I'll mention it again. For most of us, throw-ins, yes, like you said, there was a throw-in, we took it, it happened. But to get into so much detail, to actually learn the importance of throw-ins in our game today, which is so fast, which is developing so much. It's so competitive between the big teams and the small teams. You don't know, especially in the Premier League, where a team from the bottom can come up with a win against a team from the top. So, I mean, it's amazing to hear. Thomas, we will now move on to our next segment where we have a few pictures. We want to show you these pictures and for you to take us through what these pictures mean to you. So let's get into our first picture.
Yes, that's a picture for it's me standing there. I'm standing in front of the Liverpool Academy, and that's a really important picture for me, because I think it's really important that you have a throw-in strategy, not only in the first team, the professional team, but also at the academy and youth level. So in Liverpool, I've been coaching U23s, U18s, U16s. So I actually had a whole week where I educated all the coaches from U10 and up. So I think it's really good that it's not only the best team, the professional teams who are learning about throw-ins, but also all the others. Let's say, for example, in Ajax, I've also been coaching not the best pro team, but also the young Ajax. That's the second team with young players, but also U19, U16 there. So if I have the chance in my different clubs, I'm really loving to coach the young people, also the coaches of the young people. So it's a really important picture for me. That.
Let's move on to our second one.
Yeah, that was a crazy picture. Winning the Champions League, and it was an amazing ride. One thing is to win the big trophy, be a part of that with the throwing coaching, but it was also crazy, especially the semi-final being 3-0 down against Barcelona. You don't want to be forced to win 4-0 over Barcelona in a match, It's like almost impossible. Almost like Frodo in the Lord of the Rings, if you've seen that movie, But we did it. We did it, like 4-0 in Anfield, and then of course the final was a little bit special, because I think all the game was like punctured at when we scored the 1-0 goal after 2 minutes on the penalty, because then we could go a little bit back, and Tottenham, Spurs couldn't really do anything about it. So I think the game was not the most exciting. So, but it was still really, I had a lot of, nerves, and I will, because it was so important. But when we scored to the 2-0 goal by Origi, Divock Origi, then it was, I knew it was home. So yeah, so fantastic to win that Champions League.
Must be a sensational feeling. Let's get into our third picture.
Yeah, this is actually a picture from the national match between Denmark and Spain in 2008. And I was going to beat the world record, the official Guinness World Record, world longest throw-in. And what you saw here was a flip throw-in. The challenge was that I was a non-gymnast when I started training this in early 2008. So I got help from three different gymnast coaches, and that's one of the things I think it's most important. Get help from people, because we don't have to be able to do everything ourselves. It's much better if we get resources and knowledge and help from other people. So I got help from three different gymnast coaches. The last gymnast coach was the Danish national coach for the women's gymnast team. So I learned a lot. But I did this world record attempt in a match between Denmark and Spain in 2008. I didn't beat the world record. I threw approximately 44 meters. And at that time, the world record was 48.17, set by Mike Lochner from the States in 1998. So it was 10 years old. The year after, I had a world record attempt in a match between Hertha Berlin and Wolfsburg at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. I didn't beat the world record there because it was raining a lot that day. I had to take the run-in on the athletics track outside the football pitch. So that was actually really dangerous, but it was a big experience. And then in June 2010, I improved my throw-in. So I set there an official Guinness World Record of 51.33 meters.
That is a very, very long throw-in because 51 meters is absolutely amazing, Thomas. Let's get into our next picture.
Yeah, it's me standing here. I don't know what I'm saying exactly, but I'm training there at Liverpool FC. I'm standing there with Ox. I'm standing there with Naby Keita. Standing there with, I think it's actually Adam Lallana who's standing behind my arm, and some of the other guys there. And of course, it's been taken on Melwood. I've been to Melwood to train the old training ground of Liverpool many times. I've also been in training camp 2 times in Evian in France with Liverpool. Also been in Marbella in Spain. So it's fantastic. No matter if it's Liverpool or any other club in the world, I love to travel both to their own training grounds, but also to training camps. So if I sometimes get an opportunity to travel to India too, when all this COVID is a little bit better, I love to do that. I've never been to India before, so that would be just fantastic. Amazing country, what I can see in documentaries and pictures and videos. So it's just a country full of life, full of joy, with a lot of colors. So the first time I get the chance to visit India with my throwing coaching, I'll take that chance. I'm 100% sure.
It'll be an absolute honor to have you here, Thomas. Our last picture, like you mentioned, very special to you, big moment in your life.
Yeah, and it was, as you might recognize, it's the picture with Jürgen Klopp on his office, and actually, I just asked Jürgen for a picture. It was not him asking me. And Jürgen could just have said, "Hey, let me just take a fast selfie somewhere." But he said, "Hey, we'll do it in my office." You can see it's a special spot with Shankly in the background on the picture. And it was Pep, the assistant coach, who took the picture. So it shows a lot about Jürgen Klopp that he's taking time for people. He's kind. He's not like, I've seen Jürgen Klopp sometimes after training sessions on training camps. I remember one time in Evian, it was like still a small town. It's not like a big capital or so, but there were still like 80, 100 people standing outside like the closed training ground after training, even though it was in France. Jürgen Klopp came up and signed autographs for everyone, So he's just that kind of guy who's like giving time, for the people around him. And I try to do the same, not only with interviews and so, but when I meet people on the street and so I think the most important thing in life is to be kind to other people. If you're kind to other people, everything will go. Then you trust people, then you help people, get help, give help, so share knowledge, and so be kind. That's the first step to everything in life, I think.
That's amazing, Thomas. That brings us to the end of our conversation. Let me tell you from the bottom of my heart, it was, being a football fan, it was absolutely amazing to hear you out. Yes, we do hope to see you in India very soon and probably get a training session under you as well while you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of the All Balls family and me, thank you for joining us and hope you are safe.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. And I'd like to say, if there are some football coaches out there, of course, you can find me on social media, but I also have some free drills on my homepage, thomasgronnemark.com. It's my 4 best basic throw-in drills I'm also using, for example, in Liverpool FC and all my other professional teams, but you can also use them for youth or amateur teams. Already now, there are over 4,200 coaches from all around the world, over 160 countries who pick them up. They are free. Just go to my homepage, thomasgronnemark.com, and then you can pick them up. So and people love them. So you're welcome to do that.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're absolutely welcome.